Hello, parents. I'm Travis McGee, and I teach grade level, accelerated, and gifted English language arts at Creighton Middle School. And I'm also one of the few teachers that is full virtual all year. So if I'm teaching your students in virtual now, I will have them the entire year in virtual. This year, I'll be teaching your child how to read and analyze text, expanding student vocabulary, and providing strategies to help our young readers get the most out of their reading and writing. Full details of the course can be found in our course requirements folder on Teams. Students can show you how to access this, or during one of our RTI sessions, I'll be more than happy to help them find it if they're having trouble. Grade level classes meet each day at 10 a.m. and 11:35 a.m. Accelerated classes meet at 12:20 p.m. and gifted classes meet at 10:45 a.m. And these classes meet daily, every single day. If your student tells you that they're not having a meeting, double check. No red ink assignments are due every Friday and are assigned every Friday. So I give the student 7 days to work on those. And usually the no red ink assignments will cover substandard skills, or well, I shouldn't say substandard, but uh, basically skills that I can't directly teach. So review skills, things like grammar, basic writing concepts. Those are covered in our no red ink each Friday. And students of all levels, whether they're grade level, accelerated, or gifted, are responsible for daily independent reading and responses. And if you've been watching your students so far, you've probably noticed that we begin every single class with about 10 minutes of independent reading and then 10 minutes of independent writing. I want to make sure that students are writing and reading every single day. And I know that a big stumbling block for students is when you throw a text at them that they have no familiarity with and they don't like, it becomes infinitely more challenging to get them to read it. So I give them the freedom to choose any text they want to read, but I challenge them with daily writing prompts based on the text that they choose. And I push them to choose texts that are going to teach them new vocabulary and be challenging. Each class has a designated response to intervention period from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Once per week. A block students have their RTI on Monday from 2 to 4. B block has theirs on Tuesday. C block has theirs on Wednesday, and D block has theirs on Thursday. Friday is their RTI period for their related arts, and I don't have any idea how that works. You'd have to watch the video for their related arts teachers. But for me, our RTI sessions are required for students that are missing assignments or required for students that are, or rather required for students that have a grade below a B in a class. I encourage students to come, finish up any missing work that they have. If they need extra instruction with a skill, I can be there and help them one-on-one. And starting next week, we will be doing our independent reading and writing conferences during RTI as well, and all students will be required to attend those for at least 10 minutes. So your students should be in my RTI on the day that we have it for at least 10 minutes. And then after their conference, they're free to go if their grade is at least a B or higher and they don't have any outstanding work that still needs to be completed. This block is for them to complete that missing makeup work, like I said, and also to receive extra instruction. It's also a good time for students to be able to ask me questions. And in more than one instance, I've also spoken to parents at that time and had very impromptu kind of like parent conferences, but I would rather not do that. So please, if you would like to have a conference, go through guidance through the proper channels. All class notes for students are given to them. We do notes in a PowerPoint format, and I insist on interactive notes. So anytime we take notes in class, students will have some input into that, whether it's filling in blanks for the notes, whether we do a whole class discussion, whether there are quizzes attached. I will give students copies of the notes, but those activities, those interactive activities, they are responsible for. If they are absent, I have recordings of all of my lessons. They just need to select the recording from the recorded lessons channel and choose the date that they were accessed, and they'll be able to see a video of the class as if they had been in it the whole time. So there's never an excuse for students not having work done due to absence or due to missing, because they know where to find these videos. They know that every session is recorded. Let's see. The class notes can be found, if students are confused, they can be found on Teams in our class files for each class. And typically the notes are under a folder for the unit that we're working on. So we just wrapped up Unit 1, for instance. So all of our notes from theme and main idea and summary for instance, in grade level classes, can be found in the Unit 1 folder in our class files. And we're moving on to Unit 2, so all notes for extended thematic analysis can be found there. As far as grades go, student grades can be found, of course, on PowerSchool. Grades are tracked through Teams as well, but I do a lot of combining of assignments because I give the students a lot of smaller assignments on Teams, and they, like 5 questions here or 3 questions there. And if I took those as a grade by themselves, if a student missed one question, they'd miss the majority of their points, and I don't feel like that's fair. So I combine a lot of our Teams assignments into one formative grade. So instead of being graded on 5 questions, a student gets graded on 10 or 20 or 15. And it gives them the ability to make mistakes and not be afraid of it hurting their grade too bad. And that is in all levels. Grades tend to be updated weekly. Typically, I will update grades right around Wednesday or Thursday of each week. That's not a guarantee. Sometimes I'll update them on Monday or Tuesday. It really depends on when we have major assignments. Typically, I like to get grades in right before or right after summative assessments, since those have such a big impact on student grades. So usually you can expect grades to be updated by Thursday of each week. If they're not, please feel free to email me and ask me what's going on. It could be that I have a lot of students that didn't turn in an assignment and I don't want to put it in until they do. So I don't want to put in zeros and when they're going to get late credit for it. It could also be due to absence from me being out that week. But if you're ever curious about grades, please feel free to reach out and email me. I'll be happy to work through whatever's going on with you. As far as how the grades are broken down, most of you have been at Creighton for the last few years, 6th and 7th grade, and you'll remember that last year and the year before we had a 70-30 policy where summative assignments were worth 70% of a student's total grade, and formative assignments were worth only 30%. When we switched over to a virtual learning environment, we changed that to 50% and 50%. So a student's classwork and homework are worth just as much as their tests. And it is absolutely imperative that all students do their best on all assignments because all assignments are graded equally. Now to just briefly talk about the difference between formative and summative grading, because those are educational terms and not everyone might be aware of them. Formative assessments or assignments are smaller, slightly less rigorous assignments that are intended to give me data on students' growth with a skill. So if I introduce a brand new skill to them, formative testing data is going to show me how quickly they're learning it and how well they're learning that skill. Summative assessments, on the other hand, will focus on multiple skills. So at least 2 or more skills used at the same time, and they're an opportunity for students to demonstrate mastery of those skills rather than progress. And in my class, those terms are very different. Progress is the time when students can make mistakes and not be heavily penalized for it. It's where we do our messy learning. I like to call it finger paint learning. We mess up, we mess up, we make mistakes, and that gives me an opportunity to give students feedback and help them grow. That's the purpose of formative assignments. So they're graded slightly more lenient. They focus on individual skills instead of multiple skills in one assignment. And there is an expectation that students are not going to score perfectly on them every single time. With summative assignments, those are based on the formatives. So we're talking about the same skills for the formatives that we're preparing them for it, but they have to use all of the skills in unison, usually 2 or more. And the expectation is that they will use them without making major errors. So summatives tend to be graded more rigorously. They tend to demand more effort on the students' parts, and they serve to test whether the students have mastered a skill, which means that they can utilize that skill like a 9th grade student, which is the expectation of what they will be when they finish this course this year. Let's see, got my notes here. So we did that. So moving on from assignments, all assignments are posted on Teams. You may have noticed that this is a primary platform that we're using. Students get access to all learning materials and all assessments and all assignments through Teams. Even if I have them do something on an outside resource like a website, something like Flocabulary or on Common Lit or Newsela, anything we use like that, they can access it simply by going to Teams. There will be a tab for it under their general channel. Students can always find them. We go over everything in class for finding information. And all assignments posted to teams have due dates on them. So when they go to their assignments tab, they can see not only the upcoming assignments, but they can see the due date on the assignment. And below that, there's a return section where they can see assignments that they've already turned in and I have graded and I have put feedback on. Students know that anytime they check their assignments tab, they need to check their returned assignments as well in order to see my feedback, because I give individualized, personalized feedback on pretty much everything students do. Um, Student attendance is taken at the beginning of each class meeting, and that includes at the beginning of RTI as well. Now, students will not be marked absent for missing RTI, but I will email parents if I expect a student to show up to RTI and a student does not, because I think that it's important for you to know that your child was offered this opportunity for extra instruction and extra help and one-on-one with me, and they chose not to take it. But as far as attendance goes, it's very important that students are not only on teams at the time class starts, but they are in the class meeting for that period and that they engage with what we are doing. There's not a single class period that passes that I don't ask the students questions, that we don't have discussions, and that I'm not checking constantly to make sure that they're still on the same page with me. If I'm getting back radio silence from a student, it's the same thing as the student not being in the class. Yes, they can go back and watch the recorded lesson, but they're probably not going to be able to have time for that if they're busy trying to catch up what they were supposed to be doing in class. So please make sure that your students are in the meetings, that they are attentive, and that they are engaging, and that they are talking to me. It's very important. I want them to say things to me. I want them to say more things than I do. For technical support, because I know that sometimes teams will break, sometimes computers will break. For technical support, please check the Creighton Middle School website. There's a tech support number that you as a parent can call for any technical issue that your child is having with their computer or anything that we use. And if you can't get through on the technical number, just contact the school and ask for Miss Mazer in the library. She can also help troubleshoot some basic problems with things like how to check out online books and some basic Teams functionality. Lastly, and I apologize for the length of this video, but having to cover all three levels in one video is a bit tough. I just wanted to say that I recognize the challenges that we're facing, all of us together, parents, teachers, and students, with this pandemic going on. And I'm going to be there every step of the way for your kids, to guide them, to help them, to even provide the social emotional support that they need to deal with all the crazy stuff that's happening that nobody has any control over right now. I think that with your help and my guidance today, we can show students how to give the best, expect the best, and be the absolute best, especially in their English language arts classes.